Travel insurance is one of those subjects many retirees know they should think about, but far fewer feel genuinely clear about before departure day. That is where problems begin. A lot of travelers do not get into trouble because they forgot to buy coverage altogether. They get into trouble because they bought the wrong kind of reassurance. They assumed a low-cost policy was good enough, assumed their existing coverage would somehow stretch farther than it actually does, or assumed that if something serious happened, the policy would simply step in and solve it. In real life, travel insurance only feels simple until age, medications, pre-existing conditions, trip length, or a medical emergency make the details matter. For retirees, this topic matters even more because travel is often longer, more carefully planned, and more connected to health, comfort, and financial stability. A missed flight is annoying. A denied medical claim, a hospital admission abroad, or an air evacuation is something else entirely. That is why this video is not about buying insurance out of fear. It is about buying the right protection with clear eyes, so your trip feels freer, not more fragile. If you want retirement travel to feel more confident, more practical, and less full of avoidable friction, subscribe to TravelChoir. On this channel, the goal is not just to inspire travel after 55, but to make it more doable in the real world. The first thing to understand is that most retirees should not begin by asking which policy is cheapest. They should begin by asking, what financial risk am I really trying to protect against? Many travelers shop for insurance as if the main danger is losing deposits, flights, or hotel bookings. Those things matter, especially on expensive itineraries, cruises, or multi-stop international trips. But for many retirees, the largest risk is medical, not logistical. It is the possibility of needing care in a foreign country, needing tests, medication, treatment, admission, transport, or help getting somewhere more appropriate for treatment. That matters because the structure of a policy often reveals what it is truly built around. Some policies are heavy on trip cancellation language because that is what sells well at checkout. Others are stronger, where retirees often need more real protection, emergency medical treatment, emergency transportation, and the practical help that comes when something has already gone wrong. So before looking at attractive extras, comparison tables, or bundled perks, it helps to decide what matters most on your actual trip. If you are a retiree traveling abroad, especially for more than a short, simple getaway, emergency medical coverage usually belongs at the center of the decision. The next issue is one of the most common and expensive misunderstandings retirees make, assuming their existing home country health coverage will handle most of what matters abroad. Many people are vague on this point, and that vagueness is dangerous. Some retirees assume Medicare will somehow stretch into international travel in a broader way than it really does. Others assume provincial health care in Canada will offer enough protection overseas to avoid major trouble. The result is the same. They leave home feeling covered, when in reality they may be covered only partially, narrowly, or not in the practical way they imagined. This is why travel insurance should not be treated like an optional travel accessory. It is often the main structure filling the gap between what people think they have and what they would actually need during a foreign medical problem. Even when home coverage offers some limited help in certain circumstances, that is not the same as comprehensive travel medical protection. Retirees should be especially cautious here because travel at this stage of life is often more intentional and more valuable. These are not always rushed budget weekends. They may be bucket list trips, seasonal stays, cruises, multi-country journeys, or long-awaited visits with family. When the trip matters more, the cost of assuming too much about existing coverage matters more too. This is the section many retirees need to pay closest attention to because it is often where policies look fine until they are actually tested. A lot of people think pre-existing condition issues are simple. They assume the question is just whether they have a condition or do not have one. But insurers usually do not look at it that casually. They may care about stability periods, medication changes, recent tests, referrals, new symptoms, dose adjustments, treatment changes, or doctor discussions within a certain time frame before departure. In other words, the real issue is often not just the name of the condition. It is whether the condition fits the insurer's definition of stable and disclosed risk. That distinction matters enormously for retirees. High blood pressure, heart history, diabetes, past cancer, sleep apnea, blood thinners, joint issues, thyroid problems, or other common age-related realities do not automatically make travel impossible or insurance unavailable. But they do mean you need to slow down and read policy wording more carefully than a younger traveler with a simpler medical history might. This is not the moment to skim. It is not the moment to assume. It is not the moment to buy based on a glossy summary line that says something like, pre-existing conditions considered. The real answer lives in the certificate wording. For many retirees, the difference between a useful policy and a disappointing one is hidden in definitions, timelines, and exclusions that most buyers are tempted to skip. A lot of travelers think first about hospital bills and second about evacuation. In reality, evacuation is often one of the costliest and least understood parts of the entire risk picture. If something serious happens in a place with limited facilities, on an island, on a cruise, in a rural area, or far from the type of care you would actually want, the question may not just be whether you can see a doctor. The question may be how you get moved to appropriate care, who coordinates it, and who pays for it. For retirees, this matters because comfort, continuity, and medical complexity tend to matter more. A younger traveler may tolerate more uncertainty and make more assumptions about figuring it out. A retiree with prescriptions, history, or a preference for a more controlled medical pathway usually should not. That is why evacuation coverage is not some dramatic edge case add-on for extreme adventurers only. It can be a core part of what makes the policy worth buying at all. The important question is not merely whether evacuation is included somewhere in the policy language. The important question is what kind of evacuation, under what circumstances, and to where. The cheaper the policy, the less wise it is to assume the answer will match what you pictured in your head. If you do compare providers or marketplaces through the links in the description, focus on the ones that make it easier to evaluate real medical and evacuation differences, not just the headline premium. The goal is not to buy more words on paper. It is to reduce the chance of a bad surprise when the trip becomes complicated. This is the part many travelers call boring and later wish they had taken seriously. The fine print is not where the policy becomes less important. It is where the policy becomes real. Does it cover the full length of your stay, including extensions or delays? Does it work in every country on your itinerary? Does it exclude certain activities you might casually assume are normal travel behavior? Does it require you to contact assistance before certain treatments or admissions? Does it have a deductible structure that changes whether small or medium events are worth claiming at all? For retirees, practical fit matters more than marketing breadth. A 2-week guided vacation, a 6-week Europe trip, a snowbird season, and a longer slow travel stay are not the same insurance problem. Even two retirees going to the same country may need different decisions depending on age, medication profile, trip value, comfort with risk, and desire for flexibility. This is why the best policy is usually not the one with the most benefits listed in the smallest type. It is the one whose structure fits your actual trip style. Boring details such as renewal rules, duration limits, destination restrictions, direct payment coordination, and assistance procedures can end up mattering far more than a flashy inclusion that sounded nice during checkout. Another area of confusion is that travelers often buy a bundle and come away feeling protected without really knowing which part is doing what. Medical coverage is not the same as trip cancellation. Trip interruption is not the same as evacuation. Travel assistance is not the same as insurance. A package can contain some or all of these, and the language can make it feel like one unified safety net, when in reality, it is several different products or service layers sitting beside each other. Retirees should separate these mentally before buying. If your main concern is a medical event abroad, medical and evacuation strength should come first. If your trip is expensive and heavily prepaid, cancellation and interruption may deserve more attention. If you are traveling with a spouse, joining a cruise, or coordinating complicated bookings, interruption may matter more than you initially thought. Assistance services can also be genuinely useful. Help with finding care, translation, document replacement, or coordination under stress can make a difficult situation easier to manage. But convenience support is not the same thing as insured protection. That distinction matters because a lot of travelers feel reassured by the bundle without actually understanding which part would pay for the thing they are most afraid of. The smartest retirees do not just buy insurance, they build a simple system around it before departure. That means keeping the policy accessible, understanding who to call, knowing where the emergency number is, and making sure a travel partner or family member knows how to find the information if needed. It also means carrying a clear medication list, doctor contact information, a copy of the passport, and a simple written summary of allergies, conditions, and important health details. None of that is dramatic. That is precisely why it works. The goal is to reduce friction before friction arrives. If you are tired, jet-lagged, dealing with a hospital desk, handling a language barrier, or helping a spouse under stress, clarity becomes part of your protection. Retirees should also confirm practical details before leaving. Can you access the policy offline? Have you saved emergency contact numbers to your phone? Have you checked whether your destination has any medication entry restrictions? Do you understand whether the insurer expects to be contacted before certain treatments, admissions, or transports? These are small tasks, but they create a calmer trip because they turn insurance from something abstract into something usable. Before your next trip, take a few minutes to compare the travel insurance and travel planning options linked in the description and measure them against your real needs, not just the lowest price. The best retirement travel systems usually begin with a few smarter decisions before departure, and insurance is one of the biggest of them. So what actually matters before you leave? Not the prettiest booking page add-on, not the longest list of benefits, not the assumption that because you bought something, the problem is solved. What matters is whether the policy fits your real life. For retirees, that usually means understanding the true gap in your existing coverage, taking emergency medical protection seriously, reading pre-existing condition wording carefully, paying real attention to evacuation, separating insurance from travel assistance, and building a usable document routine before departure day. That is what keeps trips on track. It is not fear, it is clarity. And once clarity is in place, travel after 55 becomes easier to enjoy because fewer parts of the trip are being held together by wishful thinking. If you want more practical guidance that helps make retirement travel smoother, safer, and more realistic, subscribe to TravelChoir and keep going with the next video.